Today, we're going to hear from prolific sketchnoter Tanmay Vora about how he creates visual summaries that spread far and wide across the web. Let's get into it. Hello and welcome to Verbal to Visual. I'm your host, Doug Neill. And one of the things that I've started doing within the new online learning environment where Verbal to Visual's online courses and community lives is inviting guests on to talk about their sketchnoting process and to really dig into a specific sketchnote. A little while back, I invited Tanmay Vora on to have that type of conversation, and we'll be digging into this specific sketchnote that he created. But first, a bit of context. Here are the reasons why Tanmay sketchnotes in the first place.
I do sketchnoting for three purposes. One is obviously the creative joy that I derive from doing what I do. Act of putting pen to the paper and letting things flow is so much joyful from a creative perspective. The second reason why I do sketchnotes is I love learning immersively. And it's been a long time since I've stopped taking notes using OneNote or other tools. I generally try to take most of my notes of late using paper and pen. So it's immersive form of learning for me. Finally, I do sketchnotes so that I can share and amplify the ideas that are worth sharing. So my niche is leadership, learning, and change. And that's where I play. So that's my niche for creating sketchnotes. Obviously, I do a lot of sketchnotes. I do quotes and stuff like that, but I don't share those that often because my focus is leadership, learning, and change. And I've done about 150 to 160 sketchnotes on my blog, which is at qaspire.com. So yeah, that's a little bit about my journey on sketchnotes.
I strongly encourage you to go check out Tanmay's blog. If you've been following along here for a while, you'll know that my journey with sketchnoting started with a blog where I documented my skill development with sketchnoting and graphic recording. But the quality of what Tanmay is sharing and what he is up to definitely goes above and beyond. So do go check it out. And with the sharing of sketchnotes in mind, I asked Tanmay what sort of opportunities have come up from that type of sharing. Here's what he had to say.
I would say that it has played a huge role for sure. It has amplified my reach and scale. From a few thousand readers a month, I now have on my blog, I now have tens of thousands of readers coming in, writing in, these sketchnotes have gone viral. My following across social media platforms have increased. Obviously, opportunities have come, and I've been selectively doing commissioned sketchnotes also for organizations, events, authors, and people who generally need help in explaining their concept. I've been doing very selectively. I've been doing the sketchnotes on commission basis, and my criteria for doing those is that I look for learning leverage. So I look for opportunities where I can create a sketch note, a commissioned or a custom sketch note for someone, and in return I get to learn a lot of things about my domain. So usually I stick to this domain, and that's played a huge role in how opportunities really come to me. So it basically has led to creation of a pull mechanism for opportunities to really come to me. So I don't have to chase a lot of things, but these things really flow, and I think it's amplified my own reach. But more importantly, I think, and then this is what I want to emphasize on, as it has not just amplified my own reach, but it has also co-created, the knowledge for the authors whose articles or videos or blog posts or books I have visualized. They often tell me that this is a classic example of co-creating knowledge, and putting knowledge in newer forms so that it can reach more widely and deeply to people. So I think that I'd like to think that my sketchnotes, when I do commission sketchnotes, more importantly, they give visual wings to the ideas. so that those ideas can really fly far and wide.
Two terms stood out there that I want to emphasize. First, that sketchnotes are a co-creation between the source of the sketchnote and the sketchnoter. I love that. And I also love that sketchnotes give visual wings to an idea to help it fly far and wide. I think that's a great poetic description of the power of sketchnoting. All right, with that as some helpful background to what Tanmay is up to, let's dig into the specific sketchnote that we chatted about.
This sketchnote is based on a Harvard Business Review article by an author called Herminia Ibarra. She is a professor at London Business School, an author of many books, but most famously, she's known for her book called Working Identities. So I selected this particular set of ideas for sketchnoting because I thought that, throughout my career, I've seen, downturns in economic downturns in 2002, in 2008, and so on. And there have been a lot of ups and downs in the career, but some of these fundamentals did help me back in time. And it's only when I read this article that I realized that there could be a structure around it, which I was not very aware of, but I had experienced, but I was not aware of. And I thought there could be many people like me who might be struggling with reinventing themselves and their careers, through the period that we are going through now in COVID-19. So I thought that this might be a really good aid, a visual aid for a lot of people who are struggling currently to sort of reinvent their career and to just look at different other set of possibilities with their career. So that's how I basically ended up selecting this idea. So this is the full sketch note that we have. It has 5 broad ideas and then a lot of sub ideas inside it. I started back in 2015 when I started doing sketchnoting. I used my notepad and normal pen. Eventually, I brought a drawing book, and then I brought a really good book with good quality of paper. I invested in some felt tip pens, and I would do most of the things on paper and pen. And once I'm happy with the outcome, I would basically scan or click a photograph of it, and then I would take it into Photoshop or some other photo editing tool, and then do coloring inside the photo editing tool. So it was a very lengthy process from creating it on the paper to sort of scanning it and then taking it to the Photoshop and then doing coloring before I can say that, yes, I'm now ready for releasing it. In 2017, I invested, in a good iPad, iPad Pro, 10.5 inches. I invested in getting an Apple Pencil. I also invested in getting a screen cover from Paperlike, which so when it's no fun writing on a piece of glass on iPad. So I brought a screen cover that gives you a very close feel to what you would get when you write on a piece of paper. So I got this basics right, and I got a software called. So I evaluated a lot of softwares. One was Paper by 53. Now it's called Paper by VTransfer. I tried with Procreate, and I love the concept of layers because it allows me to play with a lot of things inside. So I chose Procreate simply because I love working in layers. I love different kinds of brushes that it gives, and I also love the ease of coloring and editing that I used to then do it in Photoshop or in other photo editing tools. I can now straight away do it while creating from within. So I think that definitely helped. And that sort of also brought down the time I need to create one sketch note. So from typically, from many hours of effort in creating and clicking the photograph and then doing photo editing, it's now just the focus is just on creation and not so much on processing and then post-processing and stuff like that. So that has really sort of eased the process. As far as the process itself is concerned, the process looks like this, and I've sort of tried to create a small visual here. So I select ideas based on, as I mentioned, about the learning leverage. So I look for learning leverage, and I look for the thing that if this has helped me, or if this has resonated with me and my own experiences throughout my career, it might resonate with others as well. So I look for personal leverage in terms of, am I learning new things? And 2, will this help others when I do the sketch note? So that's the sort of very simple 2-point criteria for selecting an idea. Once idea is selected, then I basically do a pencil sketch. Now, pencil sketch allows me to focus on two things. One is the essence of the capturing the essence, so I don't miss out on really important insights. So I cover everything using a pencil. And then it also allows me to think a little bit about the structure, because when I'm writing things in pencil, I'm writing it in a certain form and in certain skeleton. And I can finalize, or I can think a little bit about what kind of structure do I want my sketch note to be in. Do I want a linear structure? Do I want a spiral structure? Do I want a zigzag structure? Do I want left to right or right to left, or how do I want to really structure it? In this particular sketch note, if you see, then the structure of this particular sketch note that we are talking about is that it has a title, then it has 4 main points, every single point of 4 or 5 main points, and then every single main point has an associated visual metaphor to it, something that describes that thing visually. And then there are a whole lot of sub ideas within that main idea. So if you see, it's a very linear sort of left to right kind of structure that I have adopted. So it's very, very simple. So once I do the pencil sketch, and and in pencil sketch, I don't focus on how my handwriting looks, or I just focus on capturing the essence in as little time as possible. Then once I'm happy with the coverage and the structure, then I move to the final round, where I add a layer on top of the pencil layer. I also reduce the opacity of the pencil layer so that I can simply trace out what I have drawn on pencil with a proper pen, with a proper brush. So that's the final round. And the focus of this final round, then I don't think too much about whether I have covered the right content or not, whether I'm writing the right things or not. The focus of final round is the design elements, mainly what kind of brushes do I want to use, what kind of visual hierarchy do I want to create using the brush, and the thickness of brush and stuff like. So a lot of those design considerations go in during the final round. I also look for hierarchy, so creating this visual hierarchy and so on. And then I look for aesthetics in terms of what colors resonate with the idea. How do I bring vibrance and liveliness into the sketch note? Because I do it for myself, but I also do it for others. And so with that dual purpose, I have to pay attention to how it will impact the end user. I mean, if I look at the sketch note, is it going to really stick with me for some time when I see it? And that's what visuals do. They stick with the part of our brain that processes emotions, and therefore colors also generate emotions when somebody looks at the sketch note. So I studied some of that color psychology as well. So then when the final round is complete, I add the credits, I add my URL and stuff like that. And then I simply export that sketch note from my Procreate. I straight away export it into OneDrive. And from there, I include it in my blog post, and I also write, the associated thinking in form of a blog post to sort of create the context around the sketch note, and also offer some of the unique insights from my own experiences, having worked with larger organizations for about 22 years.
I absolutely love the thoughtfulness that Tanmay has put into his sketchnoting and sharing process. As a follow-up question, I asked what specific impact this sketchnote had on Tanmay and others.
Yeah, so this sketchnote, when I shared it on my blog and elsewhere, it went viral, both on Twitter as well as on LinkedIn. The author, Herminia Ibarra, one of the things that Sketchnote does to me, and this is an interesting point that I wanted to bring up, is that when I create a Sketchnote on somebody else's idea, it allows me to build a connection with the author, with somebody who has generated that idea. So it is also a way of connecting with a lot of different people through the Sketchnotes. And in this particular case as well, like it happens in all other cases, I was able to connect with the author, Herminia Ibarra. She saw my sketch note on Twitter, and she asked for a permission for it to be used in her promotional material or on her website and in the resources section of the website. So that was really cool because somebody who created the ideas thinks that this co-created sketchnote or this new interpretation of the sketchnote in visual form might be helpful for their own readers as well, beyond all the work that they have done, on the textual media side of things. So it helps me build the connects, and I think apart from the fact that it was shared by hundreds and thousands of people on social media and still gets shared a lot, and especially during the pandemic time when a lot of people were questioning their career choices and thinking about career reinvention. I think this sketchnote was, in that sense, very timely for a lot of people to read. The high point of the impact of this was that the well-known author Dan Pink, the author of Drive and several other books, he shared this sketchnote on Twitter as well as on LinkedIn, and it generated hundreds and hundreds of likes and comments and conversations, and that's really cool, because someone as big a thought leader as Dan Pink sharing your work is a really good validation that these ideas and the way they have been represented adds value to people.
Though a sketchnote going viral is by no means the goal of the process, I do think it points to the power of working with ideas in this way. And as Tanmay mentioned, it can be a great way to build connections. Connections between you and the folks whose ideas you might be sketchnoting, and also between you and others who find those ideas impactful. So I hope that hearing Tanmay's experiences and his sketchnoting process give you some ideas for what you might do next. And again, go check out Tanmay's website to follow along with his work. I've linked to that down below. And as I mentioned up front, what you saw were clips from a much larger conversation that Tanmay and I had within Verbal to Visual's online classroom. And anyone who has picked up one of our courses or joined the community gets to participate live in those webinars, so that you can ask your own questions. So if you'd like to take part in the next episode of Sketchnote Breakdown with a future guest, just know that that's a perk of signing up for one of our online resources. You can find a link to those resources down below as well. Thank you for watching, and a huge thanks to Tanmay for spending a bit of time with us and sharing his journey with sketchnoting. It was a real pleasure. Looking forward to sharing more ideas with you in the next video. Till then.